Self-awareness as a leader is crucially important. You become aware of your inner world, your emotions, your reactions to situations, and with that you're going to be equipped to respond better way next time that this situation occurs. To be aware means to be not in reaction. It means to have the choice how to respond. When you're aware, self-aware, you have the ability to choose between the responses that you are giving to a particular situation. Self-awareness means also to be aware of how other people are perceiving you, how they feel. Because you might have an intention of how you want to be perceived and come across, but it is how you really come across that matters. As a leader, you want to have a fine balance between not changing your behavior as much as to please the other person or to not offend her or him, and to adjust your behavior to the person that you are talking to and trying to influence. Because after all, your intention matters, but what matters even more is the outcome, the result of your influence attempt. So in order to be a self-aware leader, you want to be aware of your inner world. You want to start becoming aware of what triggers you and be able to delineate that from the situation. You might think you are responding to a situation when in reality you are reacting to the past. In order to be self-aware and become increasingly self-aware, because it is a skill that can be trained and you can become better, it means you can become more self-aware over time. Interestingly enough, self-awareness is a concept that unless you become aware of it, that means to be able to conceptualize it, delineate it, say what it means, what it is and what is not, you won't be able to get better at it. So we got to define it so that we know what we're actually practicing. You need a mental category in order to relate things to, and you need a way to measure self-awareness. Awareness means to be able to distinguish or make out something from the stream of perception that you have. When you look out of a car window, you may see a lot of trees passing by. But when you are aware of how an oak looks, like you can become aware that an estimated half of the trees you saw were oaks. But it requires the concept of oak, the delineation of what it is and what it is not to be in your mind, otherwise it is just a tree to you. So with this, as a leader, what do you need to become aware and how do you do this in only 5 minutes and improve your leadership skills in only 5 minutes? Good question. We want to become aware of, number one, our triggers, that which we have an unconscious emotional reaction to, be our psychic wounds. That which has caused an emotional reaction to us in the past and we react to current stimuli in the similar way. C, our unmet desires. D, our values. C, our rules and what it takes to meet these values. Introspection techniques for entrepreneurs. As an entrepreneur, introspection has merit, but what are we trying to find? What is the outcome? What is it in your psyche you look for and what for? Where in your psyche do you look and what for? Exactly. Introspection has merit. Where in your psyche do you look and what for? Introspection serves the following outcome: to uncover that inside of you which can be used to manipulate you, because psychologically trained negotiators know your psychic wounds and your psychological weaknesses. They can easily be spotted if somebody is skilled by what you say, how and when you say it, when or when not you are going in on a topic, when there is some avoidance, voice inflection, change, certain topics that are related to fears. Psychological fears can be elicited. In order to be a good professional that is strong in negotiations and cannot be taken off course, you need to introspect and find things inside of you that you are still insecure about, unresolved childhood patterns and attachments. Once you know these key phenomena within your own psyche, you will develop automatically, without practice, the ability and habit to pick up on those psychological points in the person that you're trying to influence. I am going to help you find those blind spots in your own psyche. Introspection as an entrepreneur is important. Alright, so let's pour the water and forward we go. Here we go. Introspection as an entrepreneur is important when it is conducive to productivity and getting outcomes. Introspection needs to be delineated from rumination. Introspection is not indulgence for the purpose of self-connect or rest. Introspection has an outcome. We are looking inwards in order to find an answer and give us information that help us make better decisions moving forward. There's introspection to find information from within, About a current urgent situation, there's introspection to find out information generally about yourself and to get the outcome of having explored all of these parts of yourself. You want to introspect in order to get to know all parts of you. That is what we do at our leadership retreat, where we elicit the necessary information and make it so that you remember it easily, which will help you tremendously in your decision making at work. So you want to find out, number one, what psychic wounds do you have that cause an emotional reaction in you? Second, what are the things that you don't have but want, which are unmet desires that are still open? And three, what are inner conflicts that cost you energy? And then how can we resolve those so that this energy becomes available to you and can be utilized for maximizing your outcomes? Emotional intelligence for business owners. In order to become more emotionally intelligent, we need to first define what general intelligence actually means. Intelligence means the number of distinctions that you have in a given context. It comes from interlegere, which means to understand, read between the lines. Interlegere, which means to understand between the lines. Emotional intelligence therefore means the number of distinctions that you have about human emotions. When you can distinguish not only between anger and sadness, but also between the possible motivations where the emotions are coming from, you are emotionally intelligent. It means that you can read people's emotions and furthermore adequately point towards the root cause of those emotions in yourself and within others. This is good. It means you can read people's emotions and furthermore adequately point towards the root cause of those emotions in yourself and others. The more you can read your own emotions, the more you can read them in others. Unless you can witness and abstract your own emotions, you won't be able to do so within others. If you don't have words or a distinction or something, you cannot spot it. It will just blend in with the rest of behavior. So the more emotionally intelligent you are, the more you can spot subtle signs of emotions and thoughts in a real way. Learn to read the people's emotions and thoughts so that you can infer from that psychological points that you can use for negotiation and influence. In order to influence somebody, you have to know what already influences him. What influences him are his desires and fears. Everybody has fears. Hang on. And further forward we go. Everybody has fears. So the more emotionally intelligent you are, the more you can spot the subtle signs of emotions and thoughts in the real way and learn to read other people's emotions and thoughts so that you can infer from them psychological points that you can use for negotiation and influence. So in order to influence somebody, you have to know what already influences them. What influences him are his desires and fears. So what he's moving away from, what he's moving towards. So everybody has fears. It is just the extent to which they are conscious and how strong they are felt. When one exposes himself to a fear, the fear gets less until it is not noted as a fear anymore, but just as an emotional inconvenience. In order to influence somebody else, knowing his fears are important so that you can hint towards those without threatening the other person or find out what loss the fear pertains to, and then display the loss in a different way so that the same fear gets triggered, which leads to a heightened emotional state in the other person that makes them more susceptible to your influence because the conversation is relevant towards the other person. Whenever fear of loss, less or never, is involved in the conversation about something that is relevant to the other person, they will invariably pay attention, or they have to actively work hard not to. The brain will pay attention to what you are saying if it's relevant to the other person. Apart from fears, desires are a good way to influence somebody else. In order to influence somebody, we have to know what already influences them. Desires come from deprivation. You don't desire anything that you already have or perceive that you already have or perceive that it will last forever and that you surely will have it and continue to always and forever have it. Desire is being sparked when we realize that we want something that we don't have. So therefore, desire can be sparked in two ways. Showing and telling how the person does have what he desires, letting him feel the lack, or showing and telling how much he wants something that he doesn't have. So depending on how the conversation has been going, one or the other approach might be more effective. Either we show or tell the lack or the want. Self-reflection exercises for leaders. For self-reflection exercises for leaders, we need to first understand what we are reflecting upon. The self is the ego. So our egoic entity got formed when we were very young. In order to have something, some entity to relate the world to, our egoic entity got formed. It is our base sense of identity. And the identity is the strongest force in the human psyche. So what are you reflecting upon? You may ask. Great question. We are reflecting upon our shortcomings, our fears, our desires, and our goals. So in order to be a competent leader, you need to be resistant in negotiation, that you are not getting manipulated. So in order to not get manipulated, you need to see what is inside of you that an opponent or negotiation partner could use against you or to influence you. So in order to reflect, you can reflect upon yourself, your past, and that which you believe you are. Understanding your emotions as a leader. Many people are asking about understanding your emotions as a leader. The question is, what are they trying to accomplish? What is the outcome of understanding their emotions? Many people, I believe, want to understand their emotions because it helps them to be more productive and to self-optimize. When I can only understand my emotions, I will be able to anticipate so that I don't have the emotional outbursts anymore, some may think. Others may think that to understand and learn to read one's own emotions serves in leading others, because only when you have a clear and varied understanding of your own emotions and your inner world. So what kind of emotions are there? First of all, there's anger. A lot of us consistently get angry because anger is an emotional expression of self-assertion. And the more self-assertive you are as a leader, because we need to be, and only the ones that are self-asserting actually reach higher up leadership positions. So it is a self-selection. The more self-assertive we are as leaders, the more emotional muscle of self-assertion is developed, which also means that we are more in tune with the energy of anger inside of ourselves. Our emotional skill as a leader is to let the energy of anger flow in the right actions and directions, and let the emotion of anger be expressed in the right ways and to the right people. When the energy is uncontrolled and is being expelled for other reasons or because we are not in control of it, it may be hurtful. Understanding one's emotions as a leader is very important. You need to be able to discern what are your emotions that are being rightfully evoked by the situation and by the person that you are dealing with, and what part of those emotions come from deeper psychic wounds that you might be unaware of. The psychic wounds include emotional unavailability, emotional unpredictability, abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, etc. Each of these wounds make it likely that you have certain thoughts and beliefs roaming inside of you that were formed as a protection mechanism against these wounds. So it could also have been overcompensation. So as a leader, we want to understand and remind ourselves of the trigger points that we have. For me, these are abandonment, being taken advantage of, not being listened to. Understanding your emotions means understanding what part of the emotion it is, and what part of the emotion is you, and what part is your conditioning. What is an authentic response in the moment and adequate to the situation, and what is the reaction of the past? There is a general guide to emotions that I have made that is available here. In this video, we are going to focus on the following: discerning whether an emotion is a reaction to something that happened in your past, or a rejection or reaction to a part within yourself, or whether the emotion truly is an authentic emotional response. So that you can identify whether it is a you issue, because there's nothing worse than reacting emotionally inappropriately as a leader and having your team notice it. Now, we all are humans, but the more professional we show up, the more it is going to work in your favor, because you know that they sometimes have emotional reactions to it, whereas you don't. Making you demonstrate your leadership capacity and being seen in front of your team as the leader that you are. So in order to find out whether it is a you issue or an adequate emotion in response to the moment, we need to identify your psychic wounds, your unmet desires, your imbalances, and your fears. Psychic wounds. I'm just going over all the wounds, and then you can download the free guide as a PDF in the video description. You can have it personalized in my free community, and you can see what are common thoughts that people have that such a wound have. Next up, unmet desires. When we have unmet desires, it is a psychological function to react to whatever it is that we seek. The deprivation makes us pay attention invariably. Either we do, or we have to actively work against our focus being drawn in this direction. There are two ways to heal this: quench the thirst, or heal so that there is no deprivation in the first place. When you have unmet desires, you react to somebody who has what you don't. Depending on how harshly you judge yourself for not having it, or lack of time, energy, or capability to get what you want, you're going to dislike that person and either attack them, even if it's just in your own mind, avoid them, etc., or try to unconsciously lower their status because you unconsciously sense that they have a higher status than you, at least in one specific area of comparison about this one quality. A manager who is unhappy because of 20 pounds that he believes he has no time and not the energy to get rid of might react strongly to an employee going on a fitness vacation. Or a divorced manager who is bitter about the divorce might react to an employee filing for holidays and mention that he goes to a relationship couples retreat, etc. We are being triggered by seeing when somebody has something that we don't have. We are being triggered when seeing somebody that has what we think that we don't deserve. We are being triggered when we see somebody having what we believe we can't get and have tried in the past. We are being triggered by situations that remind us of the past. We are being triggered by situations that are related to the desires that we have. Great piece of content. Personal development for entrepreneurs. A lot of entrepreneurs love personal development. Others believe that it is something that they should be doing. They live in the tyranny of should. Why is it that personal development is so sought after among entrepreneurs, and what it is for them meaning? What does personal development serve, and why is it that especially entrepreneurs and not their employees are so interested in personal development? Yeah, ho, hey, come on, yeah. As an entrepreneur, the better you are, the more you get. And in order to get what you have probably started, we have probably started. Some entrepreneurs have started in order to find an outlet or to give to other people. And you can be better in various ways. You can be stronger and more courageous. This is one of the outcomes of personal development. The less egoic fears you have, and the more you are able to distinguish when to push and when to pivot, especially when it comes to fears, which fears are valid and which fears are imaginary. This is a true personal development self-skill that entrepreneurs need to have. So I personally am very cautious about the legal protection and lawsuits. That also comes from the mindset that I'm generally shaky in my life circumstances, and the lawsuit on top of that would unsettle my life in ways that I believe I'm not prepared for. What is mindset? Your mindset is literally what your mind is set towards. It is your mindset towards fear, or it is set towards success. You may say that sounds trite. You can be better as an entrepreneur in many ways. This is one of the outcomes of personal development. The outcome, you develop real life skills that make you better and that help you lead better and be the leader that you are. Self-help for business owners. Self-improvement tips for leaders. When we talk about self-improvement for leaders, we need to consider what we're actually improving. Becoming a better leader through self-work. To become a better leader, you need to know yourself. Self-knowledge is important, that you don't just react to things in the environment and what happens to you, but that you are present and collected, knowing exactly when to respond and how to each time. As a leader, it is important to take care of your energy. That's why my work is centered and focused on energy. The outcome of my work is to increase your energy levels so that you have more energy to give to your team, leading to better results as an extension of it, so that you have more energy and be able to funnel that into your work. So you do more, and with more energy you also come better, empowering beliefs around abundance of energy, which in turn make the things you deal with cost less energy overall. It is very interesting indeed that the belief alone can shift the experience of a situation. How heavy or difficult a situation feels or is perceived as depends on the belief you hold about whatever you are dealing with and about yourself and your own energy levels. When you believe that you have only so much energy and it is never enough because you are so responsible all the time, this belief manifests in your life. How does this belief manifest? When you believe that you had not enough energy, you feel that you have not enough energy. And then every new thing that comes up in your life or an unexpected thing that lands on your desk is going to be evaluated as being too much to deal with, although with a different belief you would have been able to deal with the situation easily. Moreover, the belief that you have not enough energy leads to the thing that comes up in your life to be undesired because it takes away from the energy supply that you actually need for something else. In that way, it is harder for you to find an empowering meaning in the happening. In order to raise our energy levels, there are various ways to do so: nutrition, sleep, rest during work, cycles of restoration. But another dimension of having more energy is to heal that which gives rise to the schism inside of you that's costing you energy. Inner conflicts, unresolved issues, and inner callings that refuse to answer because it might not be aware of the calling, or you feel you are unsure as to what the right response is, costs you energy. My work focuses on and centers around bringing all of your energies into balance so that they flow effortlessly into the right actions and directions that are good for you and that give you more energy long term. More keywords: resolving inner conflicts for business owners, self-healing for business leaders. When we are talking about self-healing, we need to understand what we actually mean by self-healing. What are we healing and what is the self aspect to it? Is it the self-healing or are you healing yourself? We need to understand what healing means. Healing means to make whole and to suggest either a fragmentation or a cut of some kind. A fragmentation can be healed when we are integrating lost parts of ourselves back into our personality. You can think of those lost parts as parts of your personality. Healing can also mean making whole. It usually refers to a cut or part that goes lost. Why do parts of ourselves go lost? We grow up and there are rules imposed by our parents. We learn values as we grow up as to what are desirable and not desirable qualities in the eyes of our parents. This has to do with what they like and dislike in themselves, and that can be traced back to their own upbringing. So this is how our blueprint is formed of the beliefs and we have about the world and how we believe the world is. Healing means healing either a split, like a hurt that came from when we got hurt as children, or when our core needs for love got frustrated. Effective leadership through self-healing. A leader can only lead effectively when he heals himself, and he can only successfully heal himself when he leads himself. These dynamics go together. Healing means either healing a split, like a chasm, a schism, like a cut or a gash that happened growing up when we were children. We had a need for love and that need needed to be met. When we were treated with violence, being sexually or physically abused, or just had the perception that we are worthless, even if it wasn't our parents' intent to make us feel this way, a wound is formed. So a wound is basically interrupting the natural flow and function of that which is being wounded. It has the characteristic of being wounded, and then when the wound is triggered, that a high reaction follows. So just in the same way as when you touch a wounded part of your body, it causes pain as to signal to us that there's a wound that we need to be careful. Another characteristic of a wound is that it forms a scab for self-healing. The healing process requires the formation of a scab. So our psychic wounds from healing behaviors are meant for us to face this wound inside. It can be explained energetically that there are energies inside of us that are not in alignment with our overall well-being, which is a higher energy. That is exactly why when we level up in life, we are confronted with our wounds, because the more successful we are, the more our energy rises, and therefore the greater the difference between the vibration and the lower energy the wound and the higher energy of our success is. How to inspire your team through self-improvement. Self-improvement invariably inspires your team, and here's why. When you are improving yourself, you are leveling up. You are becoming better than you are when you were before. Inspiration means to let spirit enter you. It means that your team is inspired to raise their own standards for their lives as well. Self-coaching for business leaders. Being able to coach yourself is important. What does a coach do? A coach holds you accountable. A coach gives you strategies that are actionable and targeted just to you and for your specific situation. A coach calls you on your blind spots. A coach helps you resolve obstacles because he is also trained in resolving things that are getting in the way of living the life of your dreams. Self-improvement for business success. Identifying negative thought patterns. Understanding self-sabotage. How to be an authentic leader. Overcoming self-limiting beliefs. Overcoming self-limiting beliefs, especially for leaders, is a straightforward process. First of all, we define what you want. Step 1. We identify what the belief is, or more accurately, what the cluster of beliefs is that is preventing you from getting what you want. Step 3. We find out why the belief was formed and more or less when approximately. This serves so that we can assess how long it might take to develop the counter belief to it. Step 4. We check for potential secondary gains of that belief. Is it some emotional need that is being met? Is there anything that the belief provides you with, although indirectly? Is there something that you would face if you let go of that belief that might remind you of a situation of the past? Step 5. We acknowledge the positive intent of the limiting belief. Step 6. We devise a plan to embody the counter opposite of this belief or the cluster of beliefs. Exactly. Use the free tool provided below in order to elicit a limiting belief, or use the Chrome extension in order to capture easily negative and limiting thoughts whenever you become aware of them. The first step is going to becoming aware of the negative or limiting thoughts. Once you are aware of them, you can write them down. Once you are aware of them, you can notice them when they arise next time, and you know how to categorize these negative thoughts. Through the coaching intervention over time, you will learn to distinguish these negative thoughts, and when you become aware of them entering your consciousness, you will automatically associate with them and what to do about them. How to resolve inner conflicts. In order to resolve inner conflicts, we need to understand what the inner conflict actually is and the secondary benefit of it. Usually it is because there's something that you want and that is standing in the way. You believe that you can get or have what you want, usually because of a story of lack or limitation. The reason that you give might be accurate by telling a story. I don't mean that you made these reasons up.